The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program host and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by TCN TV Network Incorporated. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. The TCN TV Network claims no rights to the said content. TCN TV Network cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. TCN TV Network is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this program.
Hello and good evening, my friends. Welcome to On Point on this Tuesday evening, Tuesday, July 30th. We are always delighted to be broadcasting to you live from the beautiful city of Brampton here in the TCN studios. At On Point, we bring you the current information on political and current affairs issues. And this evening, we are going to continue our look on the upcoming federal election. So this year, October, will be when Canadians go to the polls to decide who will form our next government. Will it be the Justin Trudeau Liberals who continue to serve, or will it be Andrew Scheer's Conservatives, or even yet the Jagmeet Singh's NDP, or will they form the government for the first time in this country? Here we will discuss the issues. We'll take a look at their platform. As the show goes on, we have some special guests who will be joining us. Stay tuned to hear from the parties themselves and what it is that they have to offer you as Canadians. With me this evening, we have on the panel Mr. Len Carby. Welcome to the panel again. You know, we'll take some time and we'll have some discussions about what the platform issues are as we look to the upcoming general election this October. We have it's about 82 days to go, Len, to the next election. Counting down to the next election. What do you think are the chances of Justin Trudeau remaining in government?
Well, I think this particular election will be an interesting one.
Yes.
I find that most Canadians tend not to pay too much attention to elections long in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And so the real campaigning will probably happen within the 2 months of the election itself. But for those of us who follow these issues a little bit more, we're paying a little bit more attention to some of the issues, the platforms on which both parties are running. The Liberals have experienced a little bit of internal challenge in the last few months, which caused some concern. I think they have been able to turn the corner on some of these issues. Don't know yet how Canadians will interpret that at the ballot box, but that's why we have elections. And so not here to pick a winner today, but I think that it's going to be an interesting election, and we need to be paying more attention to the issues rather than to the personalities.
The personalities. Well, to be honest with you, I believe the election campaign have already started. You know, in 2015, when we had the last election, it was one of the longest campaign periods that we have had. So even though we are not in the official campaign season as yet, it's about 82, 83 days to go, we still see candidates, particularly those who, across all the country, we still see candidates who are out there knocking doors and making connections with individuals. How important is it for candidates to kind of get out there early to get to connect with residents in their ridings?
I think it's a very important thing, actually. I don't think candidates should spend their entire term campaigning. They should actually get to the work to which they were elected for. However, it's very important that you get out there to actually share your message with the individuals whose votes you are asking for, and to demonstrate that you actually hear about their concerns and really meeting them on the doorsteps and finding out from them the things which are important to them. We do recognize, however, that Canadians are consumed with the daily, things of life, taking care of their families, going to work, and so campaigning may not be, and the election season may not be high on the minds of Canadians, but certainly it has to be in the last, year or so on the minds of any elected official who needs to get a message out there. So I think that's an important part of the job of a politician, to share their message and a vision of what they will do for folks that they are asking for their votes at the doorstep?
It's kind of interesting, the persons who are coming in new, they are trying to introduce themselves, while incumbents, persons who are current MPs, they would have had 4 years to say. But what would we say to Canadians out there? Should they be looking back now to see, okay, how did my MP perform? As opposed to the MP coming out and say, okay, this is what I'll do if you re-elect me in the next 4 years. How important are these current 4 years that the MP would have served for Canadians to look at that record in terms of making their decision to go forward?
Mm-hmm. I think both are important because sometimes a healthy turnover of candidates is a good thing. And I think any politician who kind of sits on their laurels and think that they have a seat for life should be careful because there's always new blood, there's new ideas, new energy that comes to the table that I think needs a fresh look for any candidate who comes to the table. But I also believe that there's importance in looking back at the performance of those who you elected last time and see whether or not your vote was a wasted one or someone deserving another opportunity. But 4 years is really a short time for federal issues. It is a very short time. And some of the plans that we'll have at a national level do take some time for implementation. So I'm sure Canadians will be looking at that also. Was there enough time to fulfill on this particular promise, or have we made some steps towards that direction, which sometimes candidate get rewarded for moving in the right direction rather than the fulfillment of?
Let's look at some of the policies. I think one of the greatest challenge, one of the biggest ones that we see now, both parties all parties. I say both, all three parties are on the issue of who cares the most. So, for example, if you take a look at the Liberals' platform, one of the biggest things they talk about is the Canada child tax benefit. The Conservatives, while on the other hand, are saying that we care about the country's children, and we care about parents and wanting them to be able to take care of their children. The NDP is also on the same platform talking about child care for all. So all three parties seem to be zeroing in on families with children. Is this also an election issue, or are they really seriously concerned about parents and helping to lift kids out of poverty in this country?
Well, the truth is, although we may have our concerns about Canada and how well we are doing as a nation, Canada is still considered one of the best places to live in the world. And so I think it's appropriate that all parties are focused on how are their policies impacting everyday Canadians. And so finding the issues which are important, significant to everyday Canadians is an important thing for them to be talking about. The question is, how does that promise translate into a policy? And how does that policy affects the day-to-day lives?
Let me jump into something there, because I find it interesting, the fight over the child tax benefit. So, for example, the Liberals will say that they give the money to Canadians for Canadians to make their own decisions. When the Conservatives were there, they give you a tax refund to take care of your child based on certain activities. So, for example, if your child was in a sport, for example, you get a fitness tax refund or tax credit. If your child did a second language, for example, you get a tax refund for that. The Liberals come in and say, okay, we'll get rid of all that kind of stuff and we give you everything. You decide what you want your child to do. What do we think is the most effective of all these approaches for Canadians? That's a hard question to put to you.
It is, and it is one for the Canadians to answer, not necessarily one for Len to answer.
Okay.
Canadians will determine what's important to them. We see that this notion of government being involved in our lives and having less and less impact over day-to-day decisions as part of even the political fight, even south of the border, right? And the Conservatives there tend to want to be more involved in the day-to-day management of people's bedrooms.
That's a bedroom, so.
Right? But you see, so that tension is consistent, and I think Canadians will make the decision as to which approach best suits
Their
the
individual
benefits
lives.
and for their.
We'll be right back. We'll hear from the parties themselves. Stay with us. One member from one of the leading parties who wants to form government in this country will come with us after the break. You're listening to On Point. Stay with us.
With so many newspapers within the community, it's sometimes hard to tell what separates us from the rest. Most of the time, they all brag about the same thing. You know, the large circulations, tons of online views, and it can go on and on. But what really separates the Toronto Caribbean newspaper apart from everybody else? Well, it's simple. Our service. No, seriously. Hi, I'm Grant Browning, founder and CEO of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. I have over 20 years of branding and marketing experience, and I've worked with countless companies and corporations to do one thing, and that is to raise their profits with their brand. With over 40 years of combined experience in branding and marketing, our amazing staff is fully prepared to sit down and figure out exactly what you need to stand out from your competitors.
The reason why you don't see that anymore is because
the ad is too powerful, bring too much people.
So what are you waiting for? Give us a call today. We'll be happy to help.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. May your dreams all come true. Happy birthday to you.
We refuse to promote, report on anything negative in the community.
Welcome back to On Point, your number one political and current affairs talk show program. In another less than 3 months, just about 82, 83 days, we are going to the polls to decide who will be the next prime minister of this country, which party will form government. And we are here looking at the issues. This evening we have with me Mr. Len Carby, our political analyst, as well as now we are joined by Mario Russo, also one of our analysts here and On Point. And we're going to hear a little bit from some of the candidates themselves. We are having joining us Mr. Saranjit Singh, who is with the NDP, who will talk to us about, why, what Canadians can expect should his party form government. So we want to welcome him to On Point. Mr. Singh, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Hi, welcome to On Point. Thanks for joining us. Very good to have you. We understand that you are...
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Okay, so welcome. So you are the candidate for Brampton East.
Yes, I'm the candidate for Brampton East. I'm also a proud resident of Brampton East. I've lived there for many years, and I'm really excited to represent my neighbors and fellow residents.
Okay, so just for the record, over there in Brampton East, you currently have a City Member of Parliament, Mr. Raj Grewal, and for the Conservatives, we have Ms. Ramona Singh, who will be running over there. But tell me, what can Canadians look forward to or expect from an NDP government should you form the government in October?
Canadians and Bramptonians can expect a government that's going to focus on people. In terms of my background, I'm a labor and human rights lawyer. I spent my career advocating for workers, better rights, and better jobs. The NDP is very much focused in this upcoming election on investing in healthcare, education, as well as in good jobs. And what we mean by good jobs, we mean full-time work. We mean the opportunity for Canadians to provide for their family and not have to work precarious jobs, multiple jobs at a time. And if you speak to Brampton residents, which I do on a regular basis, they're very much concerned about the fact that Bramptonians can't get a post-secondary university education within their city. Many of my colleagues and many of my friends, when they go to work, they leave Brampton. We want to see that investment within Brampton, and when it comes to Canada nationally, we want to see a return to focusing on everyday Canadians.
So you mentioned, for example, education and the fact that you want to see Bramptonians being able to study here locally. As you are aware, there was the promise of a university that was on the table for Brampton, which right now has not materialized. Normally, we see education being the purview of the provincial government. So are you suggesting that from your federal counterparts, you will be looking into stepping in and invest in education locally in Brampton or across the country?
Right now, the NDP's policy is to see post-secondary education become part of our public education system. Personally, as a Brampton resident, seeing the Conservatives cancel that university hit me quite hard because I know how important an education can be for uplifting individuals. My father was a taxi driver, my mom worked in a factory. If it wasn't for our public education system, I don't think I'd be a lawyer today. So I think it's very important that we see education at the forefront. You're quite correct to say that that particular decision was made by the provincial government. I think it's important for federal officials to show leadership. When Bramptonians are being neglected, when we're not being given our fair share, and when Canadians aren't being given the respect they deserve from provincial and federal governments, it's important that our federal officials stand up for that.
I was looking at your platform, and we were talking earlier about all three parties seem to be concentrating on families with children. We have the Liberals who talk a lot about their child tax benefits that are going out to Canadians. We have the Conservatives who tout it as their original idea. They were the ones who came up with it and was giving these child tax benefits to Canadians. The NDP is talking about, for example, a national child care strategy. Are you able to speak to individuals within the middle class and those who are struggling to get in there about what to expect in terms of how would you lift their families from poverty in this country?
Yes, so we're focusing very much on tax fairness as well. We want to see corporations and the wealthy pay their fair share. We're happy that we have a country in which individuals can, but too much of the burden to provide public services has been passed on to regular, hardworking Canadians. That's why we have a proposal for a wealth tax, and we also have a proposal to see corporations pay their fair share. We want to make sure that everyday, hardworking Canadians are able to get the services they deserve, and that we have fairness within our system.
Are you still there? Oh, all right. So I was trying to zero in to learn a bit more about your plans for Canadian families. But we can continue going on there. I was also looking to see your drilling down into homelessness is also and the cost of housing is also a big issue here in Brampton. Could you talk to us? I mean, should you become the member of parliament for Brampton East and your party should form government? You talk a lot about affordable housing. What would that look like for Canadians in Brampton as well as across the country?
We're looking at creating 500,000 affordable housing units across Canada. This would allow an entire generation of Canadians to access affordable housing. I myself have seen how difficult it is for individuals to save up for a home. The idea of saving $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 in order to make a down payment for an average home in Toronto is unreachable for most Canadians. That's why we think the federal government needs to take leadership in the role of housing and ensure that we're there to provide Canadians the assistance they deserve. And just to go back to your previous question as well, all of our policies work into one another in terms of providing affordability and really helping out Canadians, middle class and individuals who are hardworking. For example, pharma care. We want to see a national pharma care program. So when people get ill, when they go to our public health system and they're told that their life may be in danger, that they don't have to use a credit card, that they can use their health card to receive the services that they need that are so important.
I think no one would disagree with you, for example, on the importance of issues like pharmacare. I think the question that folks have, Mr. Singh, is how will you propose to pay for some of these policies and programs that are within your platform? Are we going to be expecting some serious tax hikes, for example, for you to pay for things like pharmacare for all, health care for all. How do you respond to those who question how would you pay for these issues?
And if you look at pharmacare specifically, if the federal government was to go into pharmacare, there would be a net benefit, a net financial benefit to Canadians. We're looking at tax fairness from the perspective of corporate income tax, large-scale corporations, as well as the wealth tax. So we're looking at those Canadians who have a great deal of wealth to give a little bit more so that regular hardworking Canadians can get that benefit.
So when you talk, for example, about wealthy Canadians, what kind of income earners are you looking forward to pay a bit more or to tax a little bit more? Because everyone is working hard to see if they can earn more to get into the middle class and the upper class. Is that a disincentive to work hard? Would people be encouraged to continue working hard based on the fact that you're promising to tax those who earn more a little bit more?
No, not at all. I think Canadians will understand, specifically the top 1%, they'll understand that Canada's built on services. This is a project that all of us are part of. And it's very important that all of us come in together and we have a society in which we invest in one another. And that's what we're looking at with the NDP policies, from pharmacare to education to healthcare. We want to make Canada a country in which we invest in one another. And I don't think you're going to see individuals be disincentivized to work hard. The system that we have and the benefits that we'll be creating under an NDP government will ensure that individuals continue to want to work hard.
All right, thank you so very much, Saranjit Singh, the NDP candidate for Brampton East, for joining us. We have to leave it there, go to the commercial break. We wish you all the best and come back and talk to us as the campaign goes on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
Welcome back to On Point, your political and current affairs talk show program, broadcasting you live from the studios here at TCN Network in the beautiful city of Brampton. We're talking federal election campaigns, federal election politics. Coming up in just over 80 days, Canadians go to the polls, where they will select their next government, your next member of parliament, as well as deciding who will form government and lead this country as our next prime minister. Maria Russo, thanks for joining us. We just heard from Saranjit Singh, who is the candidate running in Brampton East, wanting to be the next member of parliament there and hoping that the NDP would form the next government. He's saying a few things that might be of interest to Canadians. He wants pharmacare for all. He wants to make sure that there's public education for all. Are these issues resonating with Canadians? Are these realistic expectations that our voters out there would have?
Well, I believe they absolutely resonate with all Canadians. Firstly, I applaud Mr. Singh for stepping in. I think he was recently nominated or appointed to that position, so we're starting to get a feel of who all the candidates are. He spoke very well. I think fundamentally, though, the NDP platform, which most Canadians, as we were speaking off the air, will agree that they're amazing. They're amazing platforms to try and aspire to. The question, and I think you alluded to it as well, is how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for affordable housing of $500,000? How are we going to pay for universal pharmacare and so forth? So without having having those answers, you know, I think it's great to aspire to that, but it's unrealistic if you don't have the ability to achieve that. I'd love to have my kids, you know, go to Harvard and so forth, but if I can't afford it, how am I going to get there, right?
Len Carby, I mean, the NDP is the NDP is saying some things that you know are good for Canadians. Why is it that we have not been able to achieve universal pharmacare for all, you know, universal education for all up to, as he said, university level? What, I mean, has it been a lack of will? What has it been that the Conservatives and the Liberals who have governed us for most of our existence have not been able to achieve that the NDP is promising that they can do?
Well, I think over the years we have seen both parties, whether the Liberals or the Conservatives, make promises around the social services that are important to Canadians. We're falling short of that, and there's always the opportunity to do better. There's never enough money to do all the things that we would like to do, especially in the social service space. So for one party to have a focus on that, which is the NDP, I always believe that elections are won more in the middle. And so to go to the extreme of saying we're going to have free this and free that and all of that, it's great promises, but I think Canadians also recognize that it takes cash, it takes money to actually deliver on those promises. And as a growing, you know, a country, we have a lot of immigration that's, you know, feeding into our country. There is the cost of social services keeps getting higher and higher. And so it is certainly going to be, I think, a hard sell to show from the NDP how they will pay for all of these blue sky, which we would love to achieve, but we don't live in a utopia.
It's kind of funny, you said blue sky. The Liberals, when they came in, promised us sunny waves. Now you're changing it to blue skies. That's interesting. Mario, your cell phone, you go everywhere with it, I assume. The NDP is saying that cell phones and you're looking at their systems here. Yes, it says cell phone services should be declared an essential service, and therefore they are looking at lowering cell phone services across Canada. Are they looking to get votes, or these are realistic expectations that Canadians can have that their cell phone service will be declared an essential service, and therefore they would significantly see their bills being reduced?
Well, I think it is a vote getter. I think it's very difficult to try and impose something like that when we have the two monopolies of Rogers and Bell, and I'd love to see how they're going to be dealing with the legalities of that. So again, stepping back, they're great ideas. I think we obviously overpay for cell phones here in Canada in service, but how are we going to get there? Give me a roadmap of how we're going to get there, and that's really what we want to try and get to, and that's going to be the fundamental aspect that we're going to be struggling with in this election. All three parties, I think have some great candidates, but it's not the candidates entirely, it's the policies from the parties, and then how the candidates represent the constituents, and getting across to the constituents how they're going to realize what they're promising us, right?
Now, let's go to another issue that is raging in terms of the debate, particularly, and will be of great interest in this election, is the issue of climate change. You know, it's a big issue. All the parties are saying that their plan is the right plan for Canadians. You know, the Liberals have come out with the carbon tax plan. They say it's proven to be the best way to bring down emissions. The Conservatives recently released a plan that they say is a real plan to take care of the environment, both here within Canada as well as reducing, exporting good Canadian technology that people abroad can invest in to reduce their carbon emissions. We have the NDP is also saying, you know, they want no mining. You know, they were at odds with their own government in provincial government in Alberta about the mining industry there. Who is winning this climate change argument, Len Carby? What's going on there?
Well, first, I'll start off by saying I think it's actually quite encouraging that all three parties are making the environment and climate change an important part of their platform. I think it's more and more proving, the science is supporting that the way we take care of the environment, the way we take care of this earth is impacting our ability to live on it. And so I start out by saying that's commendable. In terms of how we get there, I think that's where sometimes I think as parties come out with their platforms, they don't add enough details so that even individuals who are really interested in understanding what they're putting forward, it's really difficult to understand how they intend to, implement the strategies that they're talking about. And Canadians will make that, judgment around which party articulates that point even more. But I also think that what I think the parties are really finding out is that youth, that young person vote, is so key in this election, and young people are actually paying more attention to climate change, and so maybe what you're seeing is an indication that the politicians are zeroing in on that youth vote, which is hence why you're seeing some of this argument around the environment and caring for the planet and all of that a little bit more in order to gain more of that youth perspective.
Yeah, Mario, chipping on that as well.
To Len's point, I think it's great that everyone is recognizing it. I think it's very difficult to dispute the science behind it. Where I do take a perspective, and I've heard this from some of the Conservative candidates as well, is the fact that we need to have a plan, we need to go forward, but at the same time, this is where I think the politics are getting involved somewhat, is the fact that it's becoming a huge issue in Canadian politics, but I think it's more so to lend or attain that youth vote, perhaps. How are you really going to work with the foreign nations to get this done? I heard a statistic, I don't know how accurate it is, but if Canadians took a year off of doing everything, just no emissions, no nothing, we're at what, 1.5% of the world's emissions? We need to get policies in place and treaties signed or whatever with the Chinas of the world, with the Indias of the world, with the U.S.
And that's why I think that's a big part in what Andre Scheer is saying from his platform, that there's good, clean Canadian technology and we need to invest in it so we can export it to other countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Let's see who's winning that debate. All right, you're with us here at On Point. Stay with us. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we will be right back as we talk about the upcoming federal election campaign. This is On Point. Stay with us.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. May your dreams all come true. Happy birthday to you.
refuse to promote, report on anything negative in the community.
My name is Trish Curling, and I am an online coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher, and your new host of Shaping Life, which is all about understanding that we have the ability and the control to take charge of our health and wellness. But we can't do it alone, and I can't wait to sit down with the best in the industry. Please tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. live here on the TCN Network.
Welcome back to On Point. Thanks for joining us. We are your #1 political and current affairs talk show program. This evening, we are focusing on the upcoming general election We are just over 80 few days, 80 plus 82 or 83 days until we go to the polls to decide who will be the next Prime Minister of Canada, which party will form the next government, as well as who will be your next members of parliament in your local area. Again, with us is our expert panel, Len Carby, financial advisor, as well as a local community activist and political commentator. We have with us as well Mario Russo, businessman here in downtown Brampton, as well as our political commentator. So we're looking at the issues, the path to victory. The path to victory. You know, we saw, for example, a massive blue wave, no, red wave, a massive red wave that swept across the country in 2015, bringing Justin Trudeau into power. What's the path to victory now? You know, there's concerns. We hear about the people, the PPP, Max Burney and his party. There's concern that he might take some votes from the Conservatives. You know, I was talking with someone on the weekend, and they were saying they are, by and large, they are an NDP supporter in terms of their viewpoint, but they are concerned that voting for the NDP, they might not form government, and therefore they tend to vote Liberal, just for the sake that they want their votes to count. So what's the path of victory for, let's start with Justin Trudeau. What's the path? Well, let's change, because since he's leading. What's the path, Mario Russo, for the Conservatives to get there? How do they get to victory?
Well, you started off with the red wave 4 years ago, and I think the red wave occurred, and further to Len's point earlier, is that it was in hopes of the young getting involved, something new. You know,
sunny waves.
Absolutely. So I will argue that wasn't achieved, but at the same time, there is hope. For the Conservatives, it's getting their message across. Obviously, having Andrew Scheer come forward as a leader, understanding that he will be potentially the next Prime Minister. Is this someone that people perceive as the next Prime Minister? That's going to be one of their challenges. Now we also have the politicking, or the interesting fact of, you know, there's so many governments across the nation, provincial governments, that have gone blue. How is that going to play into the federal race? The GTA is interesting, Ontario in general, with a certain anti-Ford sentiment at this point in time. So how will that translate? We see the federal Liberals using that, from my perspective, as a strategy at this point in time. So really, how is that going to play out? We have 80 some odd days to see. We have to just figure out which party, as a constituent or as a resident, we have to figure out which party is coming across with the best platform to represent us as Canadians.
Is there a path of victory for the Conservatives? You know, they decide that, you know, they are better at managing the economy, they are better at looking out for the interests of Canadians. Do we see a path of victory for them?
One of the things that we, us political talking heads, must always recognize is that elections are decided at the ballot box, and it's decided by the residents of Canada. And so, is there a path? There's a path to victory for anyone who puts their head down, go to work, and convince the Canadian people that their message and their platform is strong. So, to go back to something Mario had mentioned, the red wave was one that was about hope and a transformational type of leadership, which was very much akin to what we saw south of the border with Barack Obama. But yet you see there, as soon as he has left after his 2 terms, it went completely in the opposite direction, right? Because people have to feel like the message is resonating. And so you can't talk so high and loftily about, the blue sky, or as you'd say, the sunny days, right? If people aren't feeling the impact of that in their pocketbooks, in the way they live their lives, in their ability to, provide for their families. So it's important that that hopeful message gets connected to the everyday lives of people in order for them to see how it's affecting them. Because it's one thing to say we're living in a prosperous country, but if people don't feel that way, they reflect that in the ballot.
So as you mentioned, Mario, earlier, we have seen a number of provincial governments that have gone Conservative in Ontario, in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, in the prairies as well, in the Maritimes as well. We see change of government taking place. In PEI, we saw a form of government there for the first time. So we do see some changes taking place. Should the Liberals be worried?
I think there's an element of concern. I mean, as Len said, is that each party has to get their resident or their constituent out to vote. The fact that in recent days people tended to go out and vote Conservative, there should be some concern. That being said, the Canadians are very intelligent. The translation of provincial government to federal government is not always exact. I mean, there are issues, and I've spoken to many people from Alberta that completely, as Ontarians, do not resonate with us. And those are major issues to them. When you're speaking pipelines and so forth. To Ontario, I mean, we live in an area that this GTA is so strategically important for all parties to recognize and to win. We saw, I mean, it translates, right? In the last election, we have five Liberal MPs in Brampton alone. That translates into the Canadian numbers as well. So really, how we get there, it's going to be up to the Canadians.
Yeah, we see, for example, you mentioned the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, Ontario as a strong voting bloc. Alberta is also a place with strong seats. Quebec is also a place with strong seats. The NDP did extremely well in Quebec in the past when they formed the official opposition. We have Jagmeet Singh now as their leader, who is very well known in Ontario, being a former Ontario politician. Is that the path to victory for him, to try and repeat what they did in Quebec, as well as now to use his popularity in Ontario to make some kind of serious inroads here? Is that something he could do then?
I don't think it should be a popularity contest. I think any party that wants to make serious inroads is going to have to convince Canadians about the issues that are meaningful to them. And I think if you try to win this based on charisma and popularity, I think you're running a losing race. And so I think if that's the approach that the NDP, I'm not saying it is, but I wouldn't think that would be the approach. Go based on the issues which are important to Canadians. I think Canadians are probably one of the more intelligent voting, populations. But elections are one kind of in the middle. There are those who will always be NDP, always be Liberal, always be Conservative, but it's the middle that decides.
Yeah, the undecided, absolutely.
Right? And so those individuals are the ones who that message need to resonate with around how are you going to make my life better? How are you going to translate this, big policy into something that makes my children go to school, make me, be able to afford housing, affect my pocketbook issues? I think those are the things that's going to win this election.
Mario, Jack Layton, when he ran for the NDP as leader of the NDP, talks about at the time hope was the giver of hope. Jagmeet Singh is now talking about love and courage. Even his memoir in his book entitled Love and Courage. Is there a path to victory for him? We're talking about his popularity in Ontario being well known, can get the message across. Can he change the Liberal seats in Brampton to NDP? Is there a path to victory for him?
Well, I think, again, as Bramptonians, I think we know Mr. Singh very well. I think we're fortunate. He's a great leader, very respected. I think the hurdle that the party has is the fact that he, as a leader, is not well known countrywide. I think that's what they're trying to do, and I think they're making strides. But how has he been able to break into markets like, as you mentioned, Quebec? I don't know. This is something that they're going to have to assess. I just think that he came into the race a little bit late. He's trying to make up some space, and they may very well be doing that. So, but it's a hurdle. It's a hurdle, definitely.
I want to touch on one thing as we're up on the break here. How important is financing in terms of being an indicator of victory in this campaign? We see where the Conservatives is far out fundraising the Liberals in terms of the amount of money that they're getting into their coffers. The Liberals are out fundraising the NDP. The NDP is lagging behind. What role, Len Kirby, is finance going to play in this election? Your ability to raise money to be going out there and to spend on the campaign, would that also help to be a deciding factor in this election?
Well, of course, it takes cash to build a campaign. It takes financing. So it's going to be an important part, but I don't think that's where the issue is going to be. It's going to be at those doorsteps. It's going to be how many candidates can get out there and connect it with Canadians at those doorsteps and convince them that their platform is important and that they should support it.
Okay. Money, Mario? I mean,
money is always important in campaigning. I just think that you have a Conservative government that has the ability to raise funds, but you have a sitting government right now that has certain advantages as well. I think it is a hurdle for the NDP party. Again, I'm only using Brampton as an example, but we're just getting to learn or learn the candidates at this point in time. So how are they going to campaign well enough? Do they have the funds to get to the doors? That's going to be something that, again, we have 80 some odd days to figure out.
All right, we talk about getting to know the candidates. Stay with us. Next week on Point, we will introduce you to a number of the players who are up for election in this upcoming October. Stay tuned with us and we will bring you those information. This has been On Point for your Tuesday, July 30th. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with us as we bring you the most up-to-date information in Canadian politics and current affairs. Thank you. See you again next Tuesday.
My name is Trish Curling, and I am an online coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher, and your new host of Shaping Life, which is all about understanding that we have the ability and the control to take charge of our health and wellness. But we can't do it alone, and I can't wait to sit down with the best in the industry. Please tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. live here on the TCN Network.